Pandemic has upended UK consumers' lives over the past year, with lockdowns and tiered restrictions limiting activities that are key to consumer spending. Yet consumers have shown their resilience by their willingness to get out and about again as soon as restrictions are relaxed, suggesting that consumers are keen to get back to a new normal as soon as possible. Today I'm speaking with partners Graeme Payne and Rebecca O'Kelly-Gillard on the changes within the sector and how consumer activity will return. So firstly, Rebecca, how do you think the sector has adapted to changes in consumer activity?
How businesses in the consumer sector have fared has really been dependent on how they had already adapted to the digital world. Those that embraced it were well placed to weather the pandemic storm. Sadly, those who had shunned it have suffered hugely. In the media space, when we moved to a virtual world last year, the content delivery model was already there, so those businesses have been quite resilient. In many ways, they've benefited from the increase of static leisure time compared to mobile leisure time. But of course, for parts of the sector dependent on physical interactions and having lots of people or fans in venues, theatres, music, sport, it's been a whole different story.
Graeme, what changes do you see continuing as we come out of this pandemic?
The pandemic has changed a lot of people's working lives and their behaviour as consumers as a result. For example, those who used to commute 4 or 5 days a week into the office, who would get a coffee and breakfast and possibly spend £10 to £12 before they've arrived in the office. This behaviour has and will continue to have been changed significantly in what, in pre-pandemic times, was already a fiercely competitive breakfast market. The change in commuting patterns is therefore just one adjustment that will need to be addressed. At the other end of the spectrum, one of the clear winners from the pandemic has been the home delivery providers. Okay, we all witnessed what happened to Deliveroo's share price when it floated. But don't forget, this is still a very young company, which is still valued in the billions. But it's the likes of the HelloFreshes, the Gustos, the Mindful Chefs, and those local independent businesses that have really developed and accelerated their delivery offering. And these are channels and income streams that will continue to grow and thrive.
And Rebecca, what do you think about the future of the live event industry?
In the case of live events such as music venues and sports stadiums, a long-term future of reduced capacity because of social distancing won't be easy. Businesses in this industry need to continue embracing the changes to their business models as we come out the other side of the pandemic.
Graeme, how optimistic are you about the future of the industry?
I believe there's a huge pent-up demand for what retail, food and beverage and hospitality provide. All of those activities that we weren't able to do will bounce back, even if they are in slightly different physical retail, food and beverage environments. Monday, April the 12th saw non-essential retail reopen and food and beverage establishments were able to serve people outside again. Okay, whilst the weather has to date not yet been overly kind, the queues we've seen outside high street retailers and the images, for example, from Soho of people out enjoying hospitality, really do show that people want to get back to retail and shopping and want to enjoy hospitality.